What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Today is April 15th, and that means, of course, today is Jackie Robinson Day throughout Major League Baseball. Today, you will see celebrations. You will see speeches honoring Jackie Robinson. You will see players throughout the league wearing number 42, a number that has been barred from use unless a player was grandfathered in back in 1997. Other than that, like Mo Vaughn. But other than that, um, number 42 has been barred from use by any team, any organization since 1997 when Major League Baseball began officially recognizing Jackie Robinson Day. Of course, Jackie Robinson Day was April 15th, 1947, when Jackie Robinson officially integrated Major League Baseball by signing with the then Brooklyn Dodgers. Before that, there was a sotto voce rule that no team could sign a black player. That wasn't written down. It wasn't written down, but since the 1890s, I think that's the last time that a black player played in Major League Baseball. So in the modern era, led by the charge of racist turn-of-the-century stars like Cap Anson and others, black players were barred from participating in Major League Baseball. Now, of course, this eventually necessitated uh, a league for black players, the Negro Leagues, where we saw so many stars in the first half of the 20th century. Josh Gibson being, I think, the best star. Satchel Paige, of course. Cool Papa Bell. Uh, John Beckwith. Oscar Charleston. So many other great baseball stars of that time. It's even rumored that Babe Ruth was kept from being a manager in the 1930s because he had every intention on integrating his team. He wanted to draft black players, and this was well known. So this is one of the reasons, supposedly, Babe Ruth, who saved baseball during the Black Sox scandal, he was banned from Major League Baseball as an owner, as a manager, because they felt that he would have tried to integrate the league back then. The biggest opponent to integration was the commissioner, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, who served from 1920 to 1944. He was a big opponent of integration, big opponent. And the only reason why Jackie Robinson was allowed to integrate into baseball was because of Kennesaw Mountain Landis' death late in 1944. Jackie Robinson was the perfect candidate. He was erudite at times. He was articulate. He was a great athlete, photogenic, um, still young. Although I thought he was a little bit older as a rookie at age 28, and we kind of miss a good 4 or 5 year extra chunk of his career because he came in relatively late. But he had to deal with so much. It's unbelievable. It's not always about athletic ability. He was a great athlete. He was a great all around player. He had decent pop for a hitter. He hit for a high average. I think for a career, I think he was a career 315 hitter. He had exceptional speed. Um, he was a great defensive player. He had a bit of a weak arm, which is why he couldn't play shortstop, and they moved him to second base, where he was a perfect second baseman. Top 10 all time second baseman. I only could imagine what his numbers would have been like had he started playing baseball at age 22 instead of 28. But great player, World Series champion, all of that. But he had to endure so much. It was a necessary but cumbersome burden that Jackie Robinson had to endure, so that others could run, so that others could sprint. But he had to be the first. Unfairly, there was a stigma against black men in this country that still continues to this day, but it was even more excessive. He could not feed into the angry man, uncivilized black man, uh, stereotype. He had to keep his cool when other people were allowed to lose their temper and let it show. Joe DiMaggio fought when he was called anti-Italian slurs. You know, Hank Greenberg fought when others called him anti-Jewish slurs. But Jackie Robinson had to stand there and take it. He had to take it from opposing teams, saying all types of disgusting things to him from their dugouts. He had to take it from the crowds relentlessly, from on the road and initially at home. He had to take it from some of his own teammates who didn't want him there, who tried to fight him, call him names to his face. He received hateful mail, death threats, out in public, death threats, called all types of names, and he had to hold his temper. And this was not easy for a man who was known for having a bad temper. I can only imagine the rage that Jackie Robinson felt the first year or two when he was in Major League Baseball. But he had to suppress it because he knew that it was bigger than him at that time. He spoke for 20 million faceless, voiceless people. And he carried himself honorably. But he had to suffer so that a Dick Allen, who should be in the Hall of Fame, could finally voice his disdain at a crowd that called him nigger. So that Reggie Jackson could be that bold, boisterous figure. So that King Griffey Jr. could slide. So that Barry Bonds could thrive. So that all of these great athletes of the day could have the benefits of those who pioneered their sport. That's why I have so much disdain for the NBA right now, because they run away from their history. They run away from it while Major League Baseball embraces their history. I got to give it to them. They embrace it. Their fans love their history. The NBA is the only goddamn sport that does not embrace their history. Even boxing embraces their history better than the NBA. And you wonder why I don't go around calling these guys the greatest this, that, or the other. You got Kawhi Leonard, who is, according to Ticket TV's live stream this morning, he's missed 127 games as a Clipper. But you want me to put him ahead of Paul Pierce? Yes, as a singular player, he's better than Paul Pierce. But Paul Pierce was there. You know what I'm saying? He got stabbed. He didn't miss games. That happened when, during the off season. But he didn't use it as an excuse to miss games. He didn't use an injury as an excuse to miss games. He played through thick and thin for the organization. Ronnie Lott suffered a finger injury, which would have required him to have surgery. He chose instead to have the finger amputated because he didn't want to miss time. And you want me to put these pampered athletes over them because, hey, they make so much more money and they're playing more games, so their stats are superior? No, I won't do it. So anyway, in conclusion, much respect to Jackie Robinson, the pioneer that he is, and happy Jackie Robinson Day.